Thanks for joining me. There's a particular passage in the book of Acts in chapter 26, verse 28, that Paul is standing before a king. His name is Agrippas. We know him as Agrippa. But anyway, this king was listening to him. He knew a lot already, but he had a save face. In other words, he had to protect himself because there's Festus and all these leaders, and they thought this guy named Paul preaching this sort of message of the way is quoted as the way in the book of Acts, and they thought it was kind of mad. It's kind of a crazy idea and definitely against their pagan religion and their gods and all that. And Paul happened to say this interesting verse, and then what Agrippa said was just pretty interesting. It says here, let me find it real quick. Chapter 26. King Agrippas, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believed. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, now the King James says, almost you persuade me to be a Christian. Of course, that's almost you persuade me to be a Christian. And that's a very popular preaching material verse that people, it's very famous. Many preachers and pastors have preached that for a long time. Almost becoming a Christian. You're not there, but there's something holding you back. Well, actually, the NIV and other translations, I believe, from my understanding, renders it in a better translation where it says, do you think in a short time you're going to persuade me to become a Christian? It's that word in a little. Either short words and your little pain that you took pains to persuade me, convince me them to become a Christian, either a short time or something like that, or in your short little speech you think you're going to persuade me to be a Christian. So I could talk on, and I could try my best to persuade you to be a believer, to find Jesus. But it may not happen. But I would like to see if I can offer some ideas for you, or some maybe answers, hopefully, to some of your questions. I'm going to try and do a survey briefly of some of the biggest reasons I believe that people don't receive Christ. And these may not be in your list at all. If you're not a believer, you don't trust in this one named Yeshua of Nazareth, Jesus, you don't believe in the Christian religion, or there's just certain things that are really holding you back. Yeah, that's a big question here. What holds you back? What holds you back from becoming a Christian? So I'm going to do, like I said, a survey. I'm going to do part 1, part 2, part 3, and several parts here. I hope you listen to it. I'm going to try to keep it in short segments, bite sizes, and then maybe one of them will hit a nerve, and it'll cause you to go, I need to really give my life to Jesus. That's what I'm hoping. I like to persuade you and not almost become a Christian, but truly become a Christian. Maybe there's objections that you might have to the Christian religion. There's just things, and don't take this wrong, but hang-ups, that just won't, I object to this, and I don't have answers to this objection. And so I'll try and offer some ideas or answers to that. Now, I would encourage you to write in the comments below, what are some of your objections, or at least one of them or something, and maybe we can correspond that way, or I'll just do a video on that particular one. It might be in my list already, I don't know. Or maybe we could call it obstacles. There's just certain obstacles. It's like an obstacle course. It's kind of a maze. It feels very confusing, or something, to get saved, and how do you do it, and what about this, and what about that? So maybe there's a bunch of obstacles and a bunch of objections. Or you could think of just something hindering you. Maybe it's a relationship you might be holding on to that you don't want to give up. Of course, that's one of my, theories, my suggestions on why people object to coming to Christ. But maybe it's just a small hindrance, or maybe it's a big hindrance. No way. If that doesn't change, I'm not giving my life to Jesus. Or think of it like a hurdle. Like you're running on this track. Life is like a track. What track are you running on? Maybe you're running on the completely wrong track, because it's, you look at the prize that you're going to end up with at the end, the finish line. When you die, what's going to happen after it? Are you going to receive a good prize, or are you going to be leading your life to destruction? Jesus said there's two roads. One is narrow, one is wide. One leads to life, and the other leads to destruction. Eternal destruction, scary. Or maybe, in just two words, do you have good reasons in your mind that that's holding you back from giving your life to Jesus? And if there's answers, some sufficient, at least somewhat sufficient answers to those reasons, you go, aha, an aha moment. You say, I see. Okay, that's good. Then you give your life to Christ. It's just good reasons in your mind why you're not going to submit yourself to Jesus. Submit yourself to the Lord. Or if it's not reasons, I think there's only one other one, and that's excuses. And that means basically, in my mind, if you just have excuses that you're not giving yourself to Jesus, and I don't care what the reasons are in your mind, you're not going to receive Christ. You're stubbornly, obstinately set in your ways and in your mind. And I don't care what reasons anyone gives. They could get answers and answers and answers to any of your objections, obstacles, hindrances, hurdles, and even, it's not really reasons you have. It's just flat excuses. You don't care to give your life to Jesus. You don't want to. And no matter what anybody says, you're going to do as you please, and you're going to refuse to accept the offers of Jesus Christ. So that's what we're going to share on. And to end in this nice little discussion, I'd like to turn to a passage, actually. And there was a parable that Jesus actually mentioned that's similar. It's kind of a parallel to this idea of excuses or reasons that these guys gave on why they didn't take the offer, accept the offer that was offered from Jesus Christ and the Father above. So in Luke 14, Jesus mentioned a parable here. See if I can find this here. Okay, so, there's Luke 12. I don't see it. Luke 14. Yeah, so let me just read through this and we'll kind of touch on it, skim across. We're not going to go in depth, but it's just a really good parable. You go, oh, wow, I'm kind of in that group right there, right there. And so a guy came to Jesus while he was eating with Jesus, and he said, he heard these things when he was listening to Jesus in his speeches, his talks. And he said to him, blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. Blessed person is going to kind of be in a banquet. There's a picture in the teachings of Christ and all the banquet. Like heaven is like a banquet. It's like a big party. It's a celebration. And it's like, you come together, as family, and you eat around the table, fellowship together. And Jesus said to them, a certain man made a great supper, and he invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all things are now ready. So he got the food, heaven is ready, basically. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray that you would excuse me. So he has land, property. The next one said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen. Okay. And I go to prove them. I got to go test them out. They're new, and I ask you to give. I want to be excused. So now we have, property. Then we have possessions. Things that he owns. He wants to go prove them. Another said, I have married a wife. Women. No, just wives. No, I'm just totally teasing. But in this case, spouses, can be a hindrance, an obstacle to keep someone from coming to Jesus Christ. Maybe you're both unbelievers and you don't want to have a friction in your marriage, so you're just going to give up Jesus for your husband or wife. What shall it profit if you shall gain your husband or your wife and you lose your soul? What are you going to give in exchange for your soul? I'm going to quote that quite a bit, I think, in these talks. So I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So we have, persons, people. So we have property, possessions, people. These are just 3 different areas as possibilities. And and then it says, so that servant came and showed the Lord, the king, these things. And the master of the house, being angry, he was angry. It angered God. Does God get angry? Yeah, he does. Righteous, just anger. Loving anger. Like, this is what? He's really angry at these guys. Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city and bring in here this is what he calls the poor, the maimed, the halt, and the blind. Just all these people. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as you've commanded, and yet there is still room. There's room at the cross for you still. There's room in heaven for you. God still has space. Are you going to fill those seats at that banquet? And the Lord said unto that servant, go into the highways and hedges. Do you hear the heart of this king? This is the heart of God. He wants people. He wants to fill heaven. He doesn't want just a select few. Although there's only going to be few because most people have excuses in their lives and they don't want to live for God. All right, but anyway. Go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in that my house may be filled. I love that. I love that phrase, that my house might be filled. Churches need to be filled, by the way, with service after service after service just on Sunday. And a lot of them are empty, not many coming. And then he says, for I say to you, now listen to this last line and we'll end with these little thoughts here, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. None of those guys that were invited will taste of my supper. Now think about that. That's very, very sad. Many, many people are called, but few are chosen. Many people don't come to Jesus Christ. They've heard the message. They've heard something about Christ, and they don't respond in a yes. You either respond no or yes. You're not in between. There's no way to be in between. Either I'm married or I'm not, or I say yes, I do, or I don't. If I invite somebody to marry me and I, propose to her, and she says, I'll think about it. She said no at that point. So, or you're saying no, maybe. You're one who is just absolutely saying no. Well, you say, I'm not absolute. Yeah, you are at this moment. You might think about it. You need some answers. It's cool. I'm glad you're here listening to this. But you're not really ready. Therefore, you're saying no. Jesus said, he that is with me, he that is not with me is against me. Think about that. You're either with him or you're against him. Against Jesus? I don't mean to be against him. Well, you haven't received him. You're either his friend or you're his enemy. You're either at peace with him or you're not. You're either right with God or you're not. You're either saved or you're not. You're either a child of God or you're not. You can't be a half child, half not. I'm either adopted into his family or I'm not in his family yet. So I would just urge you to listen to these videos and just skip the videos. Just go to Christ. Go after him. By the way, let me end with this. I'll say this. I don't have all the answers. He does. And you know your life better than I do. And he knows your life way better than even you do. He knows everything, subconscious, conscious, everything. And so, I would just kind of plead with you. I just would love to persuade you to go all the way. I wish Agrippa would have done that. I wish you would do it. Go all the way and just call on Jesus, give your life to him, and then let him sort out the answers. By the way, you'll never get all the answers anyway. The natural man cannot receive the things of the Spirit of God, the Bible says. The things of God, you just can't get the things of God. They're spiritually discerned. You have to go with whatever light you do have. If you accept the light and you receive the light, like Jesus and whatever knowledge you have of him, then once you get there, then more light happens. It will happen. That's what happened with me. I was really in gross darkness in my Christian life. When I gave my life to Christ, that's when the light bulb, ding, came on, and that's when the book opened up. I understood. Answers were there, and I started really knowing God. Until you get into his house and sit down with him and get to know him, you'll be on the outside looking in, and you'll never get in. It's like trying to tell a blind man what the sky is like. It's never seen the blue sky. It's like, how do you describe it? Until your eyes are open, you'll never really know. You'll never see. And until you give your life to Jesus and let him heal your blindness, you'll stay blind. So please come to Christ. God bless you.